What's up, Martians? I know I didn't create a lot of content for you today. I have my reasons, but I do hope that your Sunday was great. And I hope that many of you are going to have the opportunity to be off tomorrow and to do the things that you enjoy. But I do also hope that you have an opportunity to be productive in a way that adds to your goals for 2023. So earlier I was trying to take a nap. Wasn't working. I'm sure I still sound tired in some kind of way, even though I already have a raspy voice. And I noticed my algorithm for Instagram was off. Like normally when I kind of get drowsy, I allow myself to get taken in by the word post, and eventually my eyes get even more drowsy. I get drowsy. I fall asleep with the phone halfway in my hand and halfway laying across the bed. This time, however, it was activating my brain waves because it was causing my brain to say, we don't agree with this, and this is how we think about it. So for one or two of them, I believe I put in my stories. I know at least one of them I created a poll, so definitely go to my stories and check out the poll. Let me know which one you think is the right information, the yes or the no. But for this one, I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible, but as you can see, I'm already rambling, so buckle up, buttercups. All right, so a man who tells the truth doesn't mind being questioned, a liar does. So the first thing I don't agree with is man should be replaced with person, because I don't think that the gender has anything to do with this as much as the type of human nature someone has from their experiences and the type of person they want to be. So a person who tells the truth doesn't mind being questioned, a liar does. But regardless, that's not the only thing I don't agree with. I don't agree with this statement, believe it or not, because a liar is a person who is a lie and the truth ain't in them. Remember when people used to say that? Oh, okay, focus Max. Now, a half-truther, for the devil's advocates out there who like to slide in my DMs, that person is a dishonest person, depending on what they're admitting, okay? But they're not a liar. Fence riders, loophole finders, gray area mofos, yes, they are playing games with honesty, and that's a topic for another day. But they still aren't a liar, okay? Now, some people just don't like to be questioned, right? And for the people who don't like to be questioned, they don't like to be questioned because they expect you to trust them. Other people are cagey with details because they're trying to minimize conflict. Now, this is one of the main things that I'm not a fan of, because I feel like if you have to think to yourself, let me omit this because if I say this is going to be a conflict, then you really shouldn't have been doing anything that would have caused the conflict in the first place. Like, the fuck? Like, I don't care if this is a family member, a friend, a significant other, a business partner. There's situations that if that person is relying on the details that you're providing, you know what I'm saying? Once the full, shebang bang of the details, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to leave this little part out. You don't know what that person considers to be relevant, right? So why, like, if you think it's going to cause a conflict with your business partner, with a family member that you're working on something with, like, when they find out later, then what? Now you look like you're a dishonest person. So I always am a fan of two things. I try to, anything that I'm going to do, I always try to say, is this going to be in conflict with anyone that I'm tied to for any reason? Business, personal, family, etc. Anything that you can think of. And if it is, I have that conversation in advance. Like, hey, family member, I know that we said that we were going to do this way, but this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do. This is why. I'm not saying that I'm asking permission, but I would like to have your thoughts about it, right? It'd be the simplest conversation. So I am just not a fan of cagey people who do this shit because they try to minimize conflict, because the conflict is in you doing something because you just want to do it because that's you. Anyway, that's topic for another day. Now, something that people don't always think about, because especially in this situation where, like, it's maybe like your best friend or a family member or a significant other that you're extremely close to, they're used to being that person's like person, right? The person that you communicate, very intimate details of your own life. And so people forget that sometimes a person might be protecting another person's privacy or confidentiality. And, that's important. Like, I might have a presence on social media and I am, kind of revealing about some things as it relates to me, but in general, I'm a private person. And I try to hold other people's privacy and confidentiality close to my chest because that's what they deserve if they trust me with their details. And so while I don't I don't advise people who live in this gray area or who are actual liars use this, to your quote unquote advantage, but I do believe in, even if you're trying to show someone that you're trustworthy, you don't have to show that you're trustworthy by breaking someone else's confidence, is what I'm saying. But just use that in an honest way and not in a vindictive, shady, gray area type of way. Okay? Because it's, in general, my whole reason for not agreeing with this is, and it might be just my own personal mindset at this point, I just feel it's important not to think the worst of people, right? If you're seeing things that make you say, okay, I don't know why you wouldn't think that this is how I would think of you, because look at your track record. Like, that's one thing. Or if there is something that is a one-off thing that you're like, you just can't get over, really, you can take it into consideration. But what I have found in human nature more often than not is that when it comes to someone not doing something well and not being honest, or even just having the appearance of dishonesty, the best people learn from how that caused an issue and they move in a better direction. And so thinking the worst of a person just because they have made a mistake or mistakes, it is only going to put you in a position to not progress, right? But for those people who do dishonest things or have the appearance of dishonesty, you have to own your shit. The consequence of not being on the up and up is the fact that sometimes you're going to be looked at in a lesser light. And that's a choice you chose when you made a more dishonest appearing or an actual dishonest decision, right? So everybody has to wear a hat of responsibility in a situation like this. But moral of the story is, don't think the worst of people, because you wouldn't want someone to always think the worst of you in every situation and never let you breathe or get up from the things that you didn't do well. Moving right along. So I want to go ahead and put myself out on the table and let you know that I used to be this person on some level. Wasn't a liar. I was a half-truther when it came to family things, but mainly in regards to my personal business. So not if we were working on something together, that me omitting something wouldn't make us, successful. And when it came to my friends, my really close friends, I told them a lot, but a lot of times to protect privacy and confidentiality of other people, I wouldn't tell them everything, right? With my significant other, I try to tell that person enough to make them feel included, but there was a time that I would take my privacy and my confidentiality so far that I was starting to make people feel alienated, in my closer relationships. And so I had to reassess. And I probably from time to time, don't remember any time recently, but I probably from time to time was who I didn't even like when I was talking about it earlier, is I was probably a half-truther, because I definitely did used to be in certain situations a person, you're going to have to ask me the right question or you're not going to get the answer that you need. Like, you better have it was like the Riddler, okay? It was like the troll under the bridge, right? So, I mean, trying to think back to who I've been so that I'm not just pointing fingers. I want to, be honest with myself about the things that I don't agree with in this post, but also recognize that some of this used to be me too. It really, really, really did. But anyway, so you may say to yourself, okay, Maxwell, if you used to be this type of person, why are you so opposed, to so many of the things that you've said in this conversation that I'm having that's really one-sided? So I guess it's more like a speaker box. I don't know. But what basically happened is I aligned with someone in the long term. I was with someone for over 5 years, right? And I realized I was defeating my own purpose, expecting to be trustworthy by doing what untrustworthy people do. So in addition to kind of being a half-truther, like you had to ask me the exact right questions to get the answer that you needed, I also felt like when I got into this long-term, relationship, I felt like, okay, there's no one more trustworthy than me. Like, why don't you recognize this? But then I also had to own up to the fact that I was doing things that were not in line with a person who's trustworthy. So now who, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't really being right. All right. And I had to recognize that that was a lack of maturity on my part. All right. And so now you see how I brought it back to me? Someone I know would have a field day with that part. And the reality, though, going back to all seriousness, is that this type of activity, it wasn't all about me. You know, it is important that you have a part of your personality that's yours that you can stand on. But when you start to invite other people into your life, or in the case of, like, say, family members who are just there anyway, whether you invite them or not, but if you want those family members to be close and not, arm's length, like sometimes I want to. But if you're a person who wants your family in close, you have to give them a reason to feel like they are actually being close to you, right? Significant other, the same thing. Maybe not always a business partner, but there is a certain level of consistent honesty because your money is tied into, the activities that you guys do. There is a certain level of honesty that has to be there if it's activities that are related to the work that you do, right? So like I said, I had to mature out of that. I had to say to myself, what I'm doing negatively affects what I'm trying to do or be with said individuals, whether it was family or personal or business. And I just matured out of that. Because to be honest with you, being an honest and forthcoming person is not the same as acting like one. It's like a tree that falls in the forest that nobody ever hears. It actually exists. It actually happened. But there's no logical confirmation because there's a lack of proof. All right, I'm out of here, Martians. I'm either going to take a nap or go to sleep. And in the words of my best friend, she's like, whatever, chick, you about to go all the way to sleep and wake up the next morning. So either you'll see me online at like 2 o'clock in the morning, or I'll holler at you at like 10 o'clock in the morning. Later, Martians.